So, B'siyata D'Shmaya, we're jumping back into Kesser Shem Tov. We actually started Kesser Shem Tov Mem Beis last week. Some of them have like a few teachings. So we did the first, and now we're going to carry on with the second two. And the first line is already a whole teaching. And it shows up in many of the Sfarim. Rabbi Nachman quotes this a bunch of times. And we'll discuss it just for a minute, and we'll move on. Baal Shem Tov, and he says, B'makrim sha'adam choshev, the place where a person's thoughts are, b'machshava, shamhu kulai. That's where the person is. And this is a really, really fundamental teaching. Because if you think about it, we spend a lot of our time really, in a certain sense, elsewhere from where we are physically situated. Because our minds are wandering, whether it's in tefillah, whether it's in a shir, whether it's anywhere. Sometimes it's not a matter of where our minds are, it's a matter of where our ratzon is, which is maybe even worse. It's like we don't even want to be where we are. Meaning, so then we're not really there, are we? We're not fully immersed in the present. Another word for this is mindfulness. A person's not mindfully present really there. And according to the Baal Shem Tov, it isn't just, there's a part of you that isn't there. Because again, to the Baal Shem Tov, the whole essence of the person is their neshama, not the guf. So this was another way of the Baal Shem Tov saying, it doesn't really matter where your body is. The body is the wick. Where's the flame? Right? The wick is not really where it's at. The wick is there, it's a container for the flame. But the essence of the person is the neshama. Says the Baal Shem Tov, so he had this pretty radical way of phrasing it. He says, wherever your thoughts are, shamhu kulai. That's where you are entirely. And again, it's a correlate to the Baal Shem Tov's understanding that the essence, the essence of avoda is kavana, which is not really. It's not really just about the maisa itself. Where is the person's mashava? Imam is just starting. Just started, right? So it's that's the ikar, and so that's a good thing to remember. And a good thing to keep in mind, why should it be? I was speaking to the girls this week in Hasmo. Why should it be that we spend half of our life not actually where we are? Like I told them, if you're going to be somewhere anyways, you may as well be there fully. So be there fully. So you have to be in school. We have to be in school. I wish I wasn't in school. We are in school. So be in school. Mamish, be there, and try to be there mindfully, bring our machshava into the present. And that's a huge, huge avodah. But again, it's founded on the Baal Shem Tov's, perspective, which is that the essence of the person is not the guf, the essence of Yiddishkeit is not the guf, the essence of the world is not the guf, right? You always want to connect to the soul. That's the Baal Shem Tov's whole thing. Okay, let's look at the next teaching. Baal Shem Tov. The Pasuk of Tehillim says, Ashiva raglei le'edosecha. I turned my feet le'edosecha to your Torah, right? And that was the kivun that David HaMelech was constantly walking in the way of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Baal Shem Tov says, anytime you see the word regel, which on a simple level means a foot, or in some context a holiday, right? Oile regel, biregel. So according to the Baal Shem, you have to look deeper and see the soul of the word regel. Because on the simple level, regel is a foot, but on a deeper level, regel means hergel. It means something that a person is accustomed to. Something a person is accustomed to, habits. Says the Baal Shem, that's really what David HaMelech is saying. Pirish ha-hergel, ashiva raglai edosecha. If a person wants to be connected to the Torah, first thing to work on is our hergelim, right? Meaning a person has to shake themselves out of the ways that they're accustomed to living. Most of the ways that we're accustomed to living are not natural to us. We are conditioned to behave that way, either from our parents or from Reb Chunas, no I'm kidding, or from wherever a person happens to grow up in whatever context. It's not even you, in a certain sense. So a person first and foremost has to question their hergelim. How am I, and this is fundamental, especially in light of the previous teaching, how am I conditioned to think? That's number one. We have to really question our thought patterns. How do I have to think this way? Do I have to take this opinion on this issue? Is that really authentically me, or is society conditioning me? Says the Baal Shem, the first thing to work on is our hergelim. Obviously, when it comes down to the body is habituated in millions of ways to act in ways that are not connected to the neshama, not connected to the Torah. This is something we have to work on until it becomes tavasheni, until it becomes second nature. But our natural nature, lepesach chatas roivetz, the Yetzer Hara is right there when the baby is born. The Yetzer Tov has a much later entrance, at 13 years old. So the Yetzer Hara has a significant head start. I think we spoke about it in a previous year about Bechira. Maybe it was one of the Shabbos shirim, right? About the potato chip, about the crisps, with the price tag on it or whatever. I mentioned, Kitzer, to make Bechira even, the Yetzer Hara has to have a huge head start. Because if it was equal, it would Bechlal not be equal. Everyone would automatically choose Tov. Rav Nassan says the Yetzer Hara has to look so much more enticing than Ruchnius because that is the equal Bechira, right? Because again, if it was mamish equal and you would see the schar for a mitzvah right there on the package, like you see the price, the mashal on a bag of crisps, and you see the sort of schar avera, it wouldn't even be close. It would mamish not be close. So this is our Bechira. So the Yetzer Hara gets a head start. And we have her Gelim. Says the Baal Shem, Ashiva Raglai El Edei Secha. If I want to come close to Hashem, Ashiva Raglai. I have to realign my her Gelim. V'ach inami, kach, and you can say the same shot in the Pasi Yeshayo, in Tashiv, Mishabis Raglecha. Right? Which over there is learned out as a reference to Hiluchecha, right? A person has to walk properly, and different things that we learn out from that Pasuk vis-a-vis Hilcha Shabbos. But he says again, hahergel, it means hahergel. Im tashav mishabes raglecha. So Shabbos is a bechina me'in olam haba. Olam hazeh, says the Baal Shem, is the weekday and it's hergelim. In order to access Shabbos, im tashav mishabes, if I want to return to Shabbos, again, the first thing to focus on is raglecha. I have to remove the hergel of the 6 days of the week. Why? Because each and every one of us contains that structure. The same way that in the structure of time or a week, you have 6 days of the week and then you have Shabbos. Within our own identity, there are 6 days of the week. There's the chal of us, which is not the essence of who we are. That's the hergel of us, right? It's the same idea. And then there's the Shabbos of us, which is the essence of us. And if I want to get in touch with the Shabbos of who I am, mamish my neshama, then I have to get rid of the chal, which is what's the chal? Is the hergel, is the rat race, is just sort of being dragged along by society. That's olam hazeh. Have to get rid of that. Im tashiv mishabes, then I have to focus on raglecha, my hergelim, ha hergel shel olam hazeh. So the pasuk finishes v'achalticha nachlas Yaakov, and then you shall be fed, because the end of that pasuk, nachlas Yaakov, the boundless portion of Yaakov, as the Medrash, as the Gemara says, what's nachlas Yaakov is called a nachla b'li mitzarim, right? Is a boundless portion. Whoever keeps Shabbos accesses a boundless portion. What's pshat boundless portion? Because there's nothing more binding than hergelim, because a person's stuck. A person's mom is stuck in hergel. It's a limitation on who we are because we're stuck in thinking certain ways, behaving certain ways. That's how it is. So a person who's in tashav mishabes, if you access your nekudas hashabbos inside of us, which is raglecha, by getting rid of the olam hazeh, what's it called, hergelim. So then, az v'achaltich nachlas Yaakov. Then a person is able to access the aspect of Yaakov, v'chein vayisa Yaakov es raglav. And then about Yaakov Avinu himself, we see Yaakov lifted his feet. Says the Baal Shem, it's deeper. It isn't just that Yaakov lifts his feet and carries on. It means a Yaakov Avinu Jew, is a person who knows how to elevate the hergelim. Gamkein hahergel sheyotza migashmius l'ruchnius, where a person moves out of an olam hazeh, a way of being, and sort of, elevates it back into ruchnius. And the Berditchever Rav, I think it's in other Svarim as well, says that that's pshat. We're coming out to Chanukah. I think we're starting tonight, perhaps the earliest Chanukah prep in Klal Yisrael. Like people posted it, that Chanukah is like at the end of Kislev. Yes, I do. But it takes 8 weeks to prepare for 8 days, at least. So we're starting a new series tonight, Be'ezras Hashem, in conjunction with Beis Gavriel, which is very exciting. And so we have to start preparing for Chanukah already. Otherwise, the month of Mar Cheshvan is really bitter. If we don't have something to hold on to, it's mamish lost, because we let go of the Yom Tovim of Tishrei and we're not yet holding on to Chanukah. You always have to be holding on to something. So we're going to start preparing tonight. But the Berditchever says that's pshat, that the Chanukah candles are meant to be lit. The Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Chaf Aleph on the Beis, Mishatishka Hachama, from when the sun sets, Ad Shetichla Regel Menashuk. Right, ragla de tarmidai, until the feet are exhausted from the shuk. There's nobody else in the street. Why? Because that's the whole thing of Persim Nisa. There should be people walking by that you're able to light, that they should see at the Pesach of the Bayis. Says the Berditchever, you know what it means? Ad shetichla regel menashuk oto davar. Ad shetichla regel menashuk. He says the whole thing of Chanukah is that we're mamish meant to light a candle to illuminate so deeply into the sort of the darkness, those places where the sun already set, meaning those things that we think, no, this is who I am, I'm stuck, right? I'm limited in the boundaries of the weekday-oriented just habits and so on. We light the Hanukkah candles, Dafka, in the dark and down. Reb Sandor, no, it's okay, but sometimes it doesn't work. Someone has to actually go down. It's very frustrating. I'm so sorry. Right. So after the sun has already set in the dark, and famously, Marinayim, Ariya Kadosh, Reb Nassan, as we're going to learn, you light the Hanukkah candles, dafka, down, right? Lamata me'asar tvachim, down, to the place that the Gemara in Sukkah, me'olam layar the Shechina, right? The Shechina never goes to that place, and we're dafka lighting the candle, the Shechina down, because the whole point is that ad shetichla regel min ashuk, all of the habits that I picked up from the shuk, right, from outside, from the chol, from the weekday, that didn't come from mamish me. Ad shetichla kal haregel, but it's not regel, right? It's until I get rid of it. It's the same idea. All the hergel. And this is how the Baal Shem Tov changes our life. Because then, once a person becomes a holy custom to seeing the word regel as hergel, so then all of a sudden every Ma'amar Chazal that mentions regel is deeper now, right? And it still means what it means, but now we're sort of good morning, get it. We're sort of, we're what's the word? Here, I can pass the sheet. We are educated and initiated into a new way of seeing things, right? And so that's very, very deep and very beautiful.
So
okay.
That's the sermon of Lechacha, Beis Avicha, because otherwise how does that apply to us? Like, Avinu, that's a deep terror.
Absolutely. Mamish. Yeah, take a look at the Naim al-Melech.
Yes.
Yeah, where he says that. A person has to leave, Beis Avicha, right? You have to get out of all of your habits. Yeah, that's another word for habits, right? Right? I mean, the place where you came from, you have to find yourself. And how crazy is it that the culture that's founded on the shining image of Avram Avinu, who was the most fierce individualist ever, Mamish stood up against the whole world, and we became a society that, chas v'shalom, one way or another, it comes out that we quash individuality, and we don't want a person to think differently, be different, speak differently. And it's a chaval. We need to bring back that energy of Avram Avinu, like Rabbi Schiff spoke yesterday from Rabbi Shimon Shkab. Anybody who wasn't there or doesn't know this Torah, the pasuk says, the pasuk, the Medrash and Rashi brings that comments, right, that b'chachais meveheyei bracha, that even though we're going to mention in the first bracha of Shemana Esrei, which is the bracha of Avos, we're going to say Hakela Gadol Gibav Anar and so on, and so we're going to mention Elikei Avram, the gates of the Yaakov, the Magain. Right, the bracha at the end, we're not going to say Magain Avram Yitzchak Yaakov. Bechachais veheyei bracha. Avram Avinu is going to be the chasima of the bracha. Okay, interesting Gemara. Stam, like what, maybe it should say Avram Yitzchak Yaakov. Like why? But only by Avram veheyei bracha. Says Rav Shimon Shkap, what Bechachais means? He says Bechachais is speaking about the generation before the coming of Mashiach. He says the chaisam is the chasima of the world, is ikvus of the Mashiach. He says, before the coming of Mashiach, bechachaismin. Yidden who are still holding on will be Avram Avinu Yidden. Bechachaismin. They're going to be Avram Jews, individualists, people who discovered it for themselves, people who are passionate about it because they took their own journey, not because their mashgiach in yeshiva told them something, but because it's their own. That's what Shimon Shkap writes. He says at the end of times, that's what we're seeing today more than ever. This is what we need. We need to find our own way. Get out of the hergelim. Okay, let's take a look at the next teaching. This is Mem Gimel. Baal Shem Tov Zal. This is Gemara and Tainus. Again, there are two teachings here. It's the first teaching and then the second teaching. Thank you for stopping in and for joining us. And Be'ez Hashem, we'll see you later. Yeah? See you tonight. Thank you. So the Gemara in Tainus, which we actually learned already, because he commented on this Gemara in a previous piece, about the tzaddik, Tana was walking in the shuk and he sees Eliyahu Navi and he asks him, is there anybody in the shuk who's a ben olam haba, right? And he shows him the Ani Train Banchi, right? These two comedians who are sitting and making people smile. And on a simple level, it's like unbelievable. There's nobody who's a ben olam haba in the shuk except these chevra, right? And what were they doing, Sachakol? They were just making other people happy. And it turns out that's a ticket to Gan Eden, which is very deep. Says the Baal Shem Tov, it's a little bit more than that. It's in a certain sense, it's like you don't want to learn this teaching because it as you'll see. Meaning it turns them into much more than just straight Ba'chanim. I'm happy for them to just be two Ba'chanim because maybe I'll go to Gan Eden if I make a good joke one day. But the Baal Shem Tov says it was much more than that. He says, no. So he says, these were tzaddikim, who their whole thing was to elevate every aspect of physicality to the spiritual. Zulas mishay ba'atzvus, but then we came across people who were sad, and lo yaya efshar liyachid, right? And those people, a person who's mamish in atzvus is stuck in the sitra achra. Atzvus means despair. All right, atzvus doesn't mean sadness. People don't know. Atzvus means a person who gives up. It's okay to be sad. It's not okay to give up. Right? Giving up is Amalek. Giving up is the Satan. Giving up is the Sitra Achra. That's the opposite of Emunah. It's Amalek is mamish the hepech of everything that it is to be a Jew. Right? That's atzvus. Mamish stuck. Yeah. Lo yahaya av shaliachta. So these people, they couldn't be miyached. Ki emayidei shayim mi bad chased chila. You first had to cheer them up. So it wasn't stam. They weren't like badchanim. They were tzaddikim that were being miyached everything. But then they came across people who were sad. And the only way to help those people be miyached their neshamas back up is to make a joke. And then, you brought them back to life. Okay, that's the Baal Shem Tov. Fine. Now he turns to Gemara Baba Basra, Ayin Daled, about Aleph. These are the Gemaras of the Rabbi Bar Chana Agadatas, right? Where he's seeing all these wild visions and telling all these amazing stories about the Hahutaya, different Arabs, right? And what they were teaching him and telling him and different experiences. So there's one over there, in the Gemara over there, that says that there was an Arab who came and told him, come and I'll show you where heaven kisses earth. And he took a basket and he put it into a window in heaven, again, whatever this means, that there was opened up there. And then when he turned around to take the basket out, it was gone. And the Arab told him, no, the world is spinning, so come back the same time tomorrow and you'll get your basket again. Okay? So we don't get our science from the Gemara. The Ramchal already says in Adab Amarim, anything that the Gemara is talking science, it's not science, it's Kabbalah. And if you don't understand the Kabbalah of it, so you think it's a science of it, but the Gemara is not a science book, it's a Kabbalah book. And everything that it says scientific that doesn't seem to align is true Kabbalistically, even though it may not be true scientifically. Very important, not the Brahmarim, because it sort of resolves the whole Torah and science things. We don't need big, huge books. It's very basic, right? They were Mekubalim, and they were teaching us Kabbalah through these Agadatas. Be that as it may, Ayin Sham, I'm happy to share that with you if you want to see it inside. Be that as it may, says the Heilige Baal Shem, the Nashki Arav Rakia. What does this mean, the place where heaven kisses earth? What is earth? What is heaven? What's the kiss? Earth, of course, is Gashmias. Heaven is spirituality. Right? Through this, we make a yichud between the transcendent element of Elokus, which is just God, right, as godliness, and then the latent potential capacity for spirituality within the physical world, which is called Shechina, right, which is the indwelling presence of the divine. And he wanted to show him how you could connect these two things. Shak Siltai, he took his basket, V'isnachte B'kav, and he placed it in the window that opened up in the heaven. What does this mean? Pirish, this means Shabike Shiyivtuchu Loi Kave Arakia Li'inyin Olam Haba B'Tarv Abayda B'Tfila. He davened that Ribbana Shalom, all I want, meaning my basket, which is a reference to a person like Tefillah La'ani Kiyatav, a person who comes with an empty hand. It's mamash what we're learning in Likut Tamran in the night, so you'll see in a minute. But he comes and he takes his basket and he puts it where? Not on the ground to say, Ribbana Shalom, I want Gashmias. He puts it in the heaven. He puts it in the window that opens up where heaven kisses earth. Meaning this is his tefillah. So the Baal Shem is seeing the basket as a reference to a prayer. Because a basket means that I'm empty, I don't have, so I want something. What do you want? Where do you put your basket? You put it in the boot of your car, you put it in, where do you put your basket? You put it in the Shemayim. Baal Shem Tov Mashal Shabikesh Ella, Aleph, Mimelech. There was a story that somebody came to the king, and the king asked him, what do you want? And he thought he's going to ask him for treasures and riches and all sorts of honor and prestige. And you know what he asks? He says, just give me a meeting with you 3 times a day. Because there's no greater gift than the gift of being able to ask Hashem for things. What do you mean, being able to ask Hashem for things? Get what you asked for. No, because it turns out that the tefillah is itself the greatest getting. What does that mean? 3 times a day I'm able to remove myself from Olam Hazeh, Legamri, and I'm able to connect to my neshama, and I'm able to connect to my source, why I'm alive. Is that not the greatest answer to tefillahs? Now, in as much as we're still davening for things that as Hashem will have those answered too, but the ikar focus is the dveikus, the ikar focus is the relationship. And this is what it says, Tfila la'ani kiyatayv You know what the prayer of the pauper is? The Baal Shem Tov doesn't learn the prayer of the pauper and who davens before Hashem. He says no. The v'lefnei Hashem yishbach sichai, that he should be able to daven is the tefillah la'ani. This is the pshat in the pasuk. The Berditcher verse is not the pshat, but the remez in the pasuk. Ve'eschanan el Hashem ba'esahi. This is from the Berditcher of Lamar, that the yid is supposed to ve'eschanan to daven before Hashem ba'esahi. That lamar, that I should be able to daven. Lamar means not that. This is what he said. He said I should daven, that I should be able to daven. And this is what it means. And if a person does that, so then because you're davuk and because the channel is open, memela shefa will flow. Memela shefa will flow. But we have to unlock the shefa, and the way to do that is to really connect in the focal way that tefillah is supposed to be, to really build a kesher with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then emunah, which is embodied in tefillah, becomes the channel where things flow down. Ratzon, right, becomes the letters tzinar. And my desire to get close to Hashem opens a channel, and shefa will flow.
So it's almost like counterintuitive that by not focusing on what you're davening for, you are thereby creating a channel. Like basically,
Yes.
focusing just I need this parnasa, and I'm just asking for this parnasa. Then it's closed, this tzina, because there is no connection.
But like everything, you can't school the system.
No.
It's the same thing like the Gemara says, a person who davens for his friend, but it doesn't work if you're just doing that because you want, it has to, the whole thing of Yiddishkeit is sincerity. So the same is true here. If a person focuses on that, then it will work. But if not, you can't play games with Hashem, Okay, let's do the last piece. Okay, we'll see. Maybe we'll get to both of them. This is Mem Daled. Vayichi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim. And Yaakov lived, we're going to learn a few parshias, Vayichi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim. And it's a pella. It's like, how does Yaakov live? Anytime you're going to see the word Vayichi Yaakov, you'd think, obviously, he lived in Eretz Yisrael for the overwhelming majority of his life. It doesn't say anything Vayichi Yaakov. Vayichi Yaakov, he mamish lived in Eretz Mitzrayim. How you talking? How could that be? Says the Baal Shem Tov b'tzar herchavta li. There's a way in which even in the tsar, even in a narrow place, even in a difficult place, even in a challenge, personally, nationally, herchavta li, there's a harchava there. There's something gained, there's an opportunity, there's something that's wide, specifically in a very narrow place. Ki tzadikaya inen shlucha de matronisa. Because according to the Zohar Kadosh, each and every Jew, va'amechulam tzadikim, is certainly tzadikim that manifest that tzidkus, in a real way, are shluchei de matronisa. They are messengers of the Shechina. Messengers of the Shechina, lehispalel ala chesaron shel Shechina. That our job is to give the Shechina a voice. This is so deep. Because the Shechina is suffering. The Shechina, again, is the potential godliness that's trapped in a world of physicality. And it wants to get out. And we have the mouth, we have Dibur, we are the Shechina. Like we physically are the embodiment of the collective soul of the Jewish nation, which is synonymous with the Shechina. And it's splintered down into each and every body. And we are the Shechina's mouth. We're the messenger of this, like the Shechina's a mute, but she's suffering. And she sends us to daven. We are the mouthpiece of the Shechina. And so, tzadikaya in and shluchid matronisa lehispalal al chesron shel Shechina, to daven because of the pain of the Shechina. V'zen noida mechesronecha. And how do I know what the pain of the Shechina is? We actually had a shir in Likutei Moharan on this. If you remember, early on the Sunday nights, we were still doing Likutei Moharan shir. Now we're going to do Likutei Halacha shir on Sunday nights. But we had a similar idea. It was actually here when the shir was here. I don't know if you remember, but Rabbi Nachman says vatchasreu ma'at melikim. That's his drasha. Vatchasreu ma'at. Vatchasreu, says the Rabbi Nachman, when a person is made less, ma'at velikim. You should know that it's not something's wrong in your life. Elikim is the Shechina. Elikim malki mikadem. Malki is malchus. Malchus is the Shechina. So Elikim is always a reference to the Shechina. Not always, because there's the Elikim of Bina, but generally speaking, malchus, Shechina. So he says a person needs to know that whatever you lack is there to be ma'orer ma'at me'elikim, that there's a lack in the Shechina, that there's clearly something that's blocked up because there's not abundance, that there's something missing, And if there's something missing, then the Ar of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not fully negale. And that should be our primary focus. So what are we davening for? And this goes back to that Indian of tefillah. What we're davening for is, Rebbeinu Shalom, really this is our only tefillah. Ta'ir eretz michvodecha. I want the earth to be filled with your glory. And all the while that I feel that there's something lacking in my life, forget about the fact that something's lacking in my life, but that means something's lacking in your gilui. And that's the ikar focus. Can you imagine? We're the caretakers of the Shekhinah. That's what tefillah is supposed to be. And instead, we just daven for ourselves, our own little guf, and our own little family, and our own little life. And we don't realize we have a historic mission. This is our job, to work for the Shekhinah. And that's our concern. And this goes back to what we were learning about before Shoshana. Zachrenu l'chaim, melech chavetz b'chaim, v'chosvenu b'sefer chaim, lemancha Elokim chayim. It's for you, because I am only here for you, because I don't exist other than for you. And this that I have a family is only for you. And this that we have a nation is only for you. And this that there's Umas Ha'olam is only for you. It's all for you. And so Memela, our primary concern is not that I'm struggling with fill in the blank. The primary concern is that Nebuch, I'm not fully activated because I have daigus, because there's something missing, and it's something missing in you. And so for you, Rebbeinu Shalom, Tari Eretz Michvedach. B'zeh shekasav vayichi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim. Because Mitzrayim are to learn al yidei hagolus v'atzaris v'hameitzarim. Mitzrayim is always a constraint, a constriction. It comes from the word tsar, right? B'tzar hirchavtali. Shahaya liyakov yeda lehispalel. That let him know mizeh al chesron shenikar gamkin Yaakov. To daven about the chisaron in Hashem's revelation, because Hashem is Kudsha B'richu, right? And that's Yaakov Avinu, which is Tiferes, right? And so there's something missing in the revelation of the divine. So Davka Vayechi Yaakov, Shechiber Hashchina El Chaya Chayim. Yaakov Avinu was able, Vayechi, to bring life to the Shechina. Not Vayechi that he lived, but again, Vayechi Yaakov, that Yaakov Avinu himself is the embodiment of the Shechina. He brought the Shechina to life. You know how? Al Yedei Mitzrayim, Be'eretz Mitzrayim. Through the Meitzarim, because Bitzar Hirchavtali. We have a mission. When we run through a challenge, something's going wrong in life, we have a mission in that moment to daven that this lack should be filled with the Gilui Velukus. And that takes the form of every kind of shefa and bracha and atzlacha and parnasa v'chulei. But it's a different focus, right? The Baal Shem is training us how to be bigger yidden, not just to focus just on ourselves, but to be plugged into a greater picture, a greater mission. Let's quickly go through the last piece. It's a very quick mashal, very deep, but quick, hopefully. Baal Shem Tov. Mashal melech shoyalei ben. There's a parable of a king who had a son, he wanted to teach him all the wisdoms of the world that he would need. And he hired many different wise men to learn and study and to tutor and to teach his child. But it was not successful. And he didn't succeed. He didn't get anything until all the teachers just gave up because this kid was not learning a thing. But there was only one chacham left because everybody else, all the other tutors had quit. One day, the prince is sitting in the room and he's looking out the window and he sees an attractive woman that's walking by, young woman. And he was attracted her, was desired her. So this one last teacher who was left, who still stuck it out, came to the king of Inyan, and he said, Mela, I'm still believing in him, but I'm sitting there and he's busy thinking about some girl that's walking down the street. Forget it. But the king was very wise. And the king said, no, this is good, because in Cain, once you see that he has the midah of desire, even though it's a very, very, very lowly desire and it's completely mischanneled and it's completely being utilized somewhere else, but all the while that this person has chemda, afilu hachi gam begashmias, even though it's begashmias, mizeh yavel l'chol hachachmas, you're going to see that there's a way of elevating our yearnings, our passions, our appetites, our desires. We learned this in a previous year about aliyas hamidas, remember? Right? I can't remember what Mamre Chazali was talking about then. It's in a previous year. But the Indian of being able to elevate, right? To elevate our midas. There's no bad midah. There is no such thing as a bad midah. There's no such thing. Because the midas come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every midah is literally rooted in Hashem. The only midah that's a bad midah is atzvus. Because atzvus is not one of the midas that are emanated from Hashem. Atzvus is the sitra achra, right? Atzvus comes from the concealment of Elokus. The only bad midah is atzvus. Every other midah, you can find a way to channel it and elevate it to holiness, because mamish, its root, is kodesh kadashim. And so he says it's good. Sometimes you see a teenager, I think I mentioned this in the previous shirim, you see a teenager who mamish doesn't care for anything. And he cannot get out of bed, not interested in doing anything, nothing excites him. That's really difficult. That's the bechina of leitz take, as the pasuk says. You have to beat down, not that you should chas v'shalom hit your teenagers. But a leitz take, the pasuk says in Mishlei, is referring to Amalek. The leitz, there's no hope for him. But the pasuk continues, upesi, the fool, Yarim, this is Yisroi, the Medrash says. That's a reference to Yisroi. Why Yisroi? Because Yisroi was a person, he wasn't the holiest person, but he was a seeker. He was mevakesh. He served every idol in the whole world. He was a person who was looking. A person who's looking, yes, chemda, you can save a person. Any person that has a passion, even if it's a passion for negativity, but they're alive, then they can be elevated. And so this is what happens over here. See, he says, he says, bring her into the courtyard, bring her into the palace. And the king had to talk with her first. And he says, if the son is going to try to, sort of make moves toward you, you are forbidden from connecting to him at all. And you tell him, no, I'm going to speak to you, but first learn something. First you have to learn. This is what she did. And then he said, okay, now can we have a chat? And he said, no, just to learn something else, pick up some other knowledge, because it's not fitting for me. You're really, you're a prince, but you really don't know anything. So you have to learn a little bit more. And then he learned a little bit more. Eventually, he mamish grew wise. And then, upon becoming wise, so then he said, so I'm not interested in you anymore. He says, no, I need a princess. This is not going to do it for me. Because he grew up and he understood it. So you don't go chasing every girl. You're a prince. Yeah. So because he grew up, and we could understand that any chemda is good chemda. You just have to channel it. So the Talmidim of Avram Avinu in the Mishnah says, and they will eat both in Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. But Bilam Marasha, that they have a chemda for Olam Hazeh, they don't know how to channel it. And so it says, it doesn't say anything about them enjoying this world, because they mamish or mekalkal everything. Avram Avinu finds a way to utilize their this worldly appetites to succeed both in Gashmias and to elevate them Baruchnias. Bilam, it doesn't know how to elevate Midas, and they're stuck where they are.
Al kol neshima she'ani noshem